Uh, hello. Yes, live. We are live. Hello, fans of Everybody Loves Raymond. We are live on a Sunday. Hello. I am very excited about today because Lisa Helfrich Jackson will be joining us. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Tom Caldabiano talking about Everybody Loves Raymond and anything Everybody Loves Raymond. Patricia Heaton, Ray Romano, Brad Garrett, Doris Roberts, Monica Horan, Peter Boyle. Anything at all that you want to talk about under the sun about Everybody Loves Raymond. And today we have a great guest who, if you missed her last appearance, you should go back because there is nobody who knows more than Lisa Jackson. Hello, Windowpoons. Hello, Gil. Let me scroll back here. Good to see all these familiar faces. Hello, Leo in Toronto. A dreary Sunday here in LA. Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday. Hello, Bobby in Hawaii. We had a very good week. When it was on the air, Everybody Loves Raymond, the week of the Emmys in 2002, 2003, and 2005, actually, which was a surprising one. Hello, Wales. Hello in Wales. Hello, Florida. Hello, Australia. Hello, England. Hello, everybody. Good to see all these fans. This is phenomenal to see everybody. And as you know, if you have not seen this live before, we talk about everything about the show from Larry, who made the food for the cast, to production assistants, to the cast members. If you look back, you'll see Ray popping in the background when I was talking to Brad Garrett, and of course Stefania Alex Meneses visited us quite a few times, which is always great. And let's see if I can answer a few questions quickly before Lisa joins us. Hello, Palm Beach Gardens. Hello, Teresa in Chicago. Teresa, did you get a picture? I'm assuming you didn't get a picture when Alex Meneses had been to your family restaurant in the past, because you have to make sure that you get it. Hello, Jen from New Jersey. Where in New Jersey? Today's special guest, Harriet Lichtman. Excellent. Excellent. So, Lisa, if you're watching and you're having trouble joining, I suggest you restart your phone. You can only join from your phone. Restart your phone and try again. That usually solves all of the problems. So let's see if that will work. Yes, Harriet Lichtman is a very funny reference because it was Bill. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
Good to see you. I'm going to plug in my mic here. 1 second.
Can you hear me okay?
I do. I hear you great.
I find a better way to prop my phone up, but I don't know how to do that.
I'm going to bring you, Lisa, a stand.
I need a stand in the worst way.
I'm going to bring you a stand. It looks just like this.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Yes.
I don't talk on my phone. Like I'm on Zoom meetings all day, but on my computer, which is higher up. So I don't have a phone stand.
Yeah, this is the work. It's very unfortunate that you can't go live from your computer because this is also the least complimentary, and I think your hair looks good, so don't take this the wrong way.
As I ride my horse, I just came running home from the grocery store. You're like, can you come on at 2? I'm like, okay.
Nice. But the lens is a 28 millimeter lens, which means it's not quite a fisheye, but it's not the lens that you would pick to photograph people.
Correct. So, I'm going to hold it up like this is what I want to do, but I'm not going to hold it the whole time. Maybe I can lean it against my computer or something here. Make a makeshift stand here.
Yeah. As you're doing that, Lisa, just so people don't get seasick.
Sorry. So sorry.
Yeah. One of the things that people don't realize that most of a movie And very often, most of a show, almost all of the time, or let's say 80% of the time, is spent in pre-production of a show. So,
Correct.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm sure this is terrible.
Lisa,
I'm determined, though, to make it not awful.
Do you want me to get some duct tape?
How's that? How's that? It's a little
perfect.
Too much headroom, but
try and yeah, sit a little higher and more forward. Yeah.
I'm going to get my chair up here. This is so embarrassing. It's as high as my chair goes. So.
Really? That's pretty good.
Sit really tall like this.
That's great. It'll help your posture. And because you were riding your horse, perhaps you lost half an inch or something from bouncing up and down in that saddle. That theory does not hold with you? Okay. So, all right. Welcome, everybody. Now, people want to know what is in the picture behind you, Lisa.
Oh, this is a picture by a young South African photographer based out of England called Alice Mann, and it is she photographed this photos, and I kind of fell in love with them, and I tracked one down and got a print.
Okay, you dropped out. She photographed these.
Oh, her name is Alice Mann, and she photographed a whole series of photographs on film, Tom, on film.
Yes.
In this day and age, of these young South African girls in the major drumette program called. They were kind of nicknamed drummies. That's what they're called, drummies. They're drumettes, and it's. She did a whole series of photographs of them, and they're really joyful and cool. And
awesome.
I saw them. They won a bunch of awards, and I saw one, and they happened to be repped. She happened to be repped by a gallery in Santa Monica, so I went there and.
Awesome. So, okay. Yes, awesome. Thank you for that inquiry from the person that wrote that question. Yes. So a South African, but I'm going to summarize, a South African photographer who lives in London, and you live in Los Angeles, and you bought it, and we're talking to people all around the world.
I know,
so
that's so cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. So Lisa, we talked. So the last time we talked about kind of your career and getting into production, but I just want to clear up for people that aren't necessarily clear, because it's not necessarily obvious, because you see all these credits going by and you're like, what does that person do? There's 19 producers. So you are what's called the line producer or the unit
I'm not the unit production manager. Ken Ornstein was the unit production manager.
Okay, so the titles are, so just now the thumbnail is, we're talking about Everest Raymond, everybody. When Phil hands a script over to Lisa, basically he says, hey, this is an award-winning, the world's greatest script written. I need a car to come through a house, and I need it to happen in front of a live audience. Now Lisa swears under her breath and then goes into her office and sits there and goes,
swear. I didn't swear. I did say, as long as we don't have to do it live in front of the audience. And Bill said very quickly, no, we have to do it in front of the audience.
Right. So then Lisa goes into her office, and with the help of the people underneath her, she sits there and goes, okay, can we do it? And how much is that going to cost? And so then, Lisa, just take through the steps, because I don't want to have you as a guest and I'm the only one talking.
Hold on, I'm about to pass out because it's so hot in my office. I don't have the air on it. I'm just going to get my remote control real quick. I don't know where it is.
All right, so if we hear a loud thump, we know it was too hot and Lisa did pass out. So we're talking about...
I don't know where it is. My kid was out here and now I can't find it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, anyway.
Can you physically go there and turn it on, Lisa?
No, it's the remote. I got it.
Okay.
I just ran out here because I wasn't out here before. So what happens next? Is that the question?
Yeah, you get the thing.
So, look, I think people know this, but everybody, shows don't get made by themselves. It takes a village. It takes a whole group of people who are good at their jobs to figure it out. And so as a producer,
130 people approximately on Everest Raymond, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the most important part of a producer's job, I think somebody told me this early on, was that the most important part of your job is the first 2 weeks and who you hire. And so but very quickly I look at it and go, well, this is a big deal. What do we need to do this? Well, obviously we're going to drive a car through a wall. We're going to need special effects. We're going to need transportation, we're going to need all the people. So we sit down and we have a meeting. We kind of have a tone meeting, and we sit down and we talk about what, if you're doing a big gag, often you'll storyboard it. I don't know if people know what storyboarding is, but that means you bring in an artist and you sort of, with the director, draw out beat by beat what the shots are. They do that a lot in when you're doing stunt sequences and sequences that are tricky and complicated. You'll storyboard them first, so you can sort of talk. You have a tool to sort of talk through the beats of it, and then, you know, at that time we didn't have a lot of visual effects. Now we probably would have done it with some combination of visual effects, but at the time we literally put the car on like a metal track, had a breakaway wall of the set, and literally just drove it through.
Right.
And I remember testing it because we had to put Peter and Doris in the car. And I remember wondering, like, Phil didn't want it to be stunt people because he wanted the audience's reaction. The car goes through the wall breaks apart, and then Doris and Peter get out of the car all in one take. He didn't want to have stunt people and then switch it out. So I remember thinking, well, I better ride in the car one time to take that car ride to make sure it felt safe, and it was fine. It was
yeah.
very.
Because if we lost you, the show would still go on. Your signal is freezing, Lisa. There we go.
I lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, your signal was
What
freezing.
happened?
I was saying we heard that you might as well ride in the car, and I said if we
I
lost.
rode in the car, yeah.
Yeah, and if we lost.
Just to make sure it felt safe and secure, and that we weren't putting Peter and Doris in any kind of a weird. Normally I wouldn't do it. We'd have a stunt coordinator or somebody riding it, but I just jumped in and said I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then we did it in front of the audience, and it was a huge reaction. And people have seen the episode. It was one of the biggest reactions we've probably ever had, right?
Well, the audience was shocked, and who's expecting?
Doris, yeah.
Who's expecting just the magnitude of the sound of a car going, and it wasn't actually driven. Yeah, there was actually a rope and there was a pulley under the coffee table.
It was on a track, yeah.
Yeah, on a track, but then pulled by a thing, because you're not allowed to start a car inside of a soundstage. So,
right.
So Lisa, that
no gasoline in the tanks on a soundstage. That's right.
Yeah. So just going back, just so people understand, when Phil finishes the script, it's funny, he hands it to you, can you do it? You sit there, and now you go back, you figured out the budget, and you have to decide, because you know what you're allowed to spend. So if Phil says, listen, I need 2 tractor trailers to do this, and also I need them from a crane and a helicopter shot, you might have to go to Phil and say, listen, that's probably hysterical, but that means we can't do any other stunts the rest of the year. Or
yeah, I mean, we didn't really. It's funny because the early days of Raymond, before the show was a hit, money was very tight, to the point of, I remember the production executive from HBO coming over, and we had moved studios. Remember, we moved studios from Hollywood Center to Warner Brothers. And so it was more expensive to come to Warner Brothers. And we were putting the sets back up, and this is a little trivia, dumb story, but the tile in the kitchen was painted. It wasn't real tile. It was painted. It was faux painted tile. And so when we moved, we said, we're going to put real tile in the kitchen. But it was like kind of expensive. And also a lot of the drawers didn't open. They were just facades. So we were like, we're going to make real drawers, and we're going to put tile. And it added money. And I remember the production executive coming over and saying, you can put tile there, but not there. You can put drawers there, but not there. Like, telling us where we couldn't. It was so crazy. And when you think about it now, yeah, the show became, so much bigger and a huge hit, and nobody ever questioned those things again. Yeah. But early on, certainly. Well,
yeah. And just to give some perspective, the stage we were on year 1 is Hollywood Center Studios, which was General Services Studio before then. And the first 2 years of I Love Lucy was one stage away from us, basically. It was on stage 2. We were on stage 3/8, but because the show was doing so poorly and was not necessarily expected to last, the accounting department, to their credit, sits there and goes, let's cut costs as much as possible. Like, let's just potentially, if this show goes under, let's not have lost our shirts. And so then what Lisa's talking about, we moved to Warner Brothers the second year. And even though we were at Warner Brothers, we were at these really bad location production offices right next to the place where they
were
build
like
the sets.
temporary trailers. They weren't
So
even real. Like you could hear through the walls. Like they weren't
Yeah.
even real offices. Yeah.
Right. So we were on a temporary trailer next to where they built sets. So you would hear all day long of them cutting wood and cutting sets, etc. And now the show is almost kind of getting decent ratings. So the pressure is off. And I tell this, Lisa, because now we're 15, 16 years out, and the show is this iconic show that people, you assume it's a big hit. But just like,
was so small. There's some funny questions going by. Somebody said, does your budget increase as the ratings go up? The answer is yes. You have a little more. What happens is, I don't know how people know how the business model works, but the show is owned by the studio. They sell it to the network. The network gives a license fee. The license fee doesn't cover the full cost of the show, and the studio doesn't make money until they sell the show in syndication. So yes, as the ratings go up, the pressure is off a little bit for sure. And then somebody asked, was your stage at Warner Brothers bigger than your stage at Hollywood Center? And I think it was smaller.
Yeah. So the stage, by the way, you raced.
A better studio, but a smaller stage.
Yeah, yeah. So just because you raced through that quickly, and a lot of people don't know anything, let's put me in that category. So Lisa, you're frozen. Let me wait. There you go.
Sorry.
There you go. Are you on your Wi-Fi, Lisa? Are you on your Wi-Fi?
I am. I'm on my Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is somebody downloading 1,000 movies in your house?
There's 4 other people using internet in the house probably right now. So.
Son of a gun. Okay. So, yeah, so just really quickly going back, because you went kind of quickly, and you got to assume that people don't understand. Let's call that person
I feel like
me.
I'm being redundant because we talk about this stuff. So slow me down and tell me what you want me to explain.
Well, just a studio is who in Raymond's case?
Oh, so HBO was actually the studio. People never think of Everybody Loves Raymond as an HBO show, but it was produced by HBO Independent Productions, which was a branch of HBO, and then was sold to CBS as the network, and then the network gives the studio what's called a license fee, which is a certain amount of money to make the show. In the broadcast world, the network broadcast world, not in the streaming world, that's the whole business model has changed, but in the broadcast network world, the money that you get as a license fee never covers the full cost of the show. So the studio, HBO Independent Productions, has to cover the difference between what the license fee is and how much it costs to make the show. So when the show was at the bottom of the ratings, and it's unclear whether it's going to make it or not, they're trying to deficit as little money as possible. So there's a lot of financial pressure. And then certainly once the show clearly is working and you see that there's a syndication life where the studio is going to be able to sell the show and monetize it, and make money, then the pressure is off. And it really still wasn't off that much in the second season. The pressure didn't really kind of come down until the show was a bona fide.
Yeah. And so just real quickly for people, when a show gets to about 88 episodes, that means it can probably go into syndication. And syndication is where the show makes money in spades. So once you click that off, 88 episodes, okay, which is season 4, I believe, then they can go, okay, we know we're going to make our money back. You know what? We'll put real tile in the whole kitchen. And so
I think we actually got real tile season 2. I think we got that part.
Yeah. So just real quickly, because I'm going back, I try not to do too many questions to interrupt your stories of a guest. But someone just wrote, I always wanted to know who was responsible for the HumVac episode. One of my all-time favorites. I assume a staffer had this happen to them buying a rainbow vacuum. So yes, just to answer this real quickly, if you go back and watch Lou Schneider's interview, he was somebody was being sold a rainbow vacuum, and then Lou said, you know what, I'll handle this, when his wife requested an appointment with Rainbow Vac, and then he ended up completely buying it and being suckered.
Was Trisha O'Kelly in that episode?
I think that's her name, yes.
Yeah, because she was one of the meanie moms on Old Christine, because I produced Old Christine after But I think
Okay.
she was the
Comeback salesman.
I think she was, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
Funny. That was a good episode.
Yes.
It's funny because I don't think I remember. I don't think I know the genesis of every story ever written because I wasn't in the writers' room, so I don't think I know. I know certain ones like the toaster episode and stuff, but I'm not sure. And the can opener, but I don't know if I know the genesis of every show and who it happened to in the same way you do.
Right, nor would I expect you to, and I think that's the beauty of talking to everybody I can who worked on the show, because there's so much about what happened on stage that I have no clue about, and what happened in construction that I don't know about. When you talk to the writers, they know the genesis, and Phil, obviously, and Ray, of every single episode. But the execution is where we are with you, which is the more interesting thing. So let me just scroll through. I think we talked about this last time, Leo. Some great questions from Leo in Toronto. How did you execute Peter falling through the stairs?
When did he fall through the stairs?
Okay, so yeah.
What episode was that?
He fell through the stairs. It was a story based in real life. No, Ray and Deborah's. He decided to fix the stairs. Ray and Deborah, there was an injury that was relations related, and so somebody lied, and then Frank decided to step up and fix the broken stairs, but
remember.
Yes, so he fell through. So my memory is that he went on to, I know Peter did the stunt himself, and I'll post the picture afterwards.
It was just a breakaway, something in a pad underneath that he fell onto, I'm sure.
A cushion, whatever they legitimately did. But, we were worried about him because you never want him to be injured. Somebody in the past mentioned, I'm going to get back, Lisa, to specific questions for you, but somebody mentioned about, spinoffs, et cetera. Phil tried a spinoff with Brad and Amy, and CBS was not interested. The demographic was too old, they said. So I think even now, I don't think Everose Raymond would have been sold, and it would not have been the hit that it was, because networks who were nice enough to put Everose Raymond on the air are generally looking for a specific demographic. So they're looking through it from that filter. So just because we were talking about the Emmys last week, in Phil's speech, he said, he was told to make it hip and edgy, and so he made a joke during his acceptance speech, here's to my hip and edgy, and it's, you look at our cast, and they're not hip and edgy, and I'm saying this with all deference to Patricia Heaton and Monica, who were attractive women, but for the most part, it was not hip and edgy. So
Friends.
Yes, it wasn't Friends. All right, now, since we're talking about the Emmys, since I brought it up, do you remember, Lisa, because every year, for people watching, you would send out something called a screener. A screener is simply a DVD. I mentioned this last week. But Phil would decide, okay, these are our 4 strongest episodes, for lack of a better thing. And we always had a good problem of having an amazing number of really strong episodes. Mm-hmm. But then there would be a decision of what's on the cover and designing all those stuff. And that screener, which I'll dig one up, that screener gets sent out to all the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences members. Mm-hmm. So when you're a member of ATAS, you're a member of ATAS, I assume, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, so you get in your mailbox, back then I'm talking about, you just get swamped. You get tons of screeners, and you're like, sometimes you're like, this is great. I'm getting Breaking Bad and I haven't seen it or something like that. But a lot of times it's every show that thinks they have a shot, and you get stacks and stacks and stacks.
And all the reality shows and all the,
Yes, all the shows that you probably won't watch. And do you remember being in, because, on those decision-making, not which episode necessarily, but the packaging and all of that?
Not so much. It was really, there was a marketing team, the whole marketing. I think the HBO marketing team was behind all of that, Mara McKalian and her group, and they hired people to do the design and all that.
Yes.
They spent a lot of money on that. They spent a lot of money on packaging, all the whole, campaign and packaging and everything, I think.
Yeah.
In later years, not in the first couple of years, but.
Yes. just so because Donnell, who I think figured out the switching of the fork and spoon episode, it was called Frank Goes Downstairs. That was the name of the episode.
Right. I saw
Frank,
season 6, episode 6. I think somebody wrote.
Yes.
Better memory than me. I vaguely remember that happening, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah. So then, Karen, this is a good episode. So, by the way, sorry, just going back to the screeners. One year they used all my photos as the outside jacket.
I bet.
To get it. I can't remember which season, but I'll find it. And if you go on eBay, I'm sure if you look up Seinfeld Emmy screener, a bunch will pop up. Or Everybody Loves Raymond Emmy screener, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'll try and find. I'm sure in my basement there are some. So, Karen, excellent question. Apart from the Italy episode, which is really an anomaly because you had to go to Italy, so instantly you're a big expense. But what were the most expensive episodes that you can remember?
Oh, well, that was by far.
Right, but besides that,
millions of dollars the most expensive. I mean, it was the most expensive at that time because as the above the line got higher, the cost of the show increased, significantly. So the cheapest episode in later seasons was more than that. But
So sorry, Lisa, just because it's a little inside baseball. Above the line, what Lisa's making a joke about is salaries. So when Ray was making a pittance for a TV star year 1, that changed by season 5. So now all of a sudden there was a boatload of money going to Ray and not quite as big a boatload going to produce the whole series. So you're
the thing that people, the thing about Raymond, it never, it never was written big. The show didn't work when it went out in the world a whole lot. I mean, I remember we would build big sets and talk about things, and sometimes we'd get to the episode. We did a whole car dealership, I feel like, on one episode that we never shot. Like, the show worked in the living room. It just was that kind of show. It was all about the words and the people and the characters and their relationships and this family. And so the episodes were never crazy expensive by any means. They were always. Some got a little bigger, the bull chasing Brad down the street or whatever. But it was never a crazy big production-wise in scope. It was never a huge show. It didn't work. It wasn't because we couldn't afford to. They would have paid for us to do whatever, but it didn't work that way. The show wasn't. It was better when it was a little smaller. I think that.
Yeah, of course, of course, and I think that was so. If people, I know it's funny because. Only because they are juggernauts here, Friends and Seinfeld had tons of outside cast and tons of traveling. And Everybody Loves Raymond just didn't. And I think Phil knew that when you went outside of the family, people didn't enjoy it as much. So it wasn't a money-saving thought.
It wasn't.
It was strictly what works and what didn't work.
The creative drove it. Yeah, the creative drove it because we could have done anything we wanted. I mean, the show by the time in the later seasons was such a huge hit. I think they would have let us do whatever we wanted, but the show, it just never lent itself to that.
Yeah. By the way, Lisa, you'll laugh at this. I just read, for people watching, the showrunner of I Love Lucy was a guy named Jess Oppenheimer. So he was the Phil Rosenthal of I Love Lucy. And he met somebody at a party. I think the show went on the air in 51 maybe. And TV was just beginning. And so he met someone and he said, "Oh, I'm the producer of I Love Lucy." And the woman said, "Oh, what do you do the rest of the week?" Because in her mind, they just turn the cameras on the couple and they watch the couple doing what they do live.
It's so funny. I did everything. I always said that I didn't mean to cut you off, but my job, if I did my job well, by the time we got to the live show, I had nothing left to do.
Right.
The opposite.
Yes. And as I was looking through the photos, I was going to say to you, we finish a script. We are now like, okay, let's do the next script or whatever. That now becomes your problem. That script is now your problem. When we go to show night, we have to be on our toes. Phil obviously is watching every take and the editor and everybody. And we're sitting there going, okay, if this joke doesn't work, and you kind of are like, okay, this is my 2.5 hours of not relaxing, but nothing can, unless something catastrophic happens, which it did once when Ray cut his finger in real life during the taping. So, and we'll talk about that. But I think we're painting the clear picture that and when you were juggling your camera before, I was saying, when you're making a movie, most of the time is pre-production. So what happens is you see a movie got shot in 28 days, 35 days. You know, a long movie is 2 months is an enormously long movie. But for the most part, let's say 30 days. So you think, wow, I can shoot a movie in 30 days. There might have been 8 months of pre-production to make that.
And a lot of post-production too.
Then there's post-production. And what happens in that 8 months is they try and figure out every detail, because it's so expensive when you're shooting the movie or the TV show that you want to make sure that everything falls into place and there's no guesses or no. So that's why when you go to a movie, if you ever go to a movie set, they're very much of, we have to make our day. It's crazy rushing. So sometimes, I helped Ray out on The Big Sick, a movie called The Big Sick. Yeah. That was 5 years of Kumail and his wife and Judd Apatow and the producer working on the script and getting it into shape. And then they shoot it, and it's so under the gun, must make it happen, have to do it, because if we go, and this is how important it is, if they go over on a day, meaning they can't shoot a scene, the person who writes the check, I'm simplifying it, but the person who writes the check can go, find a scene to cut, because we're not giving you any more days. So that's why it's such an important thing.
Well, these days are hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right, to make that.
Depending on what you're doing.
Yes, to do a day. So, Lisa, only because we brought it up, and I don't want to tease people, there was an episode that the scene that takes place in Robert's apartment calls for Ray to walk in and just cut a piece of cheese and say to Robert, whatever, a line. And so as we're filming this episode with 200 people, Ray goes, cuts it, and he goes, cut. I mean that literally. Ray had cut his finger so severely that he had to be rushed to the doctor, right? I don't want to say hospital.
We ran him down, I think, to the Toluca Lake Health Center or the St. Joe's emergency room. I can't, one or the other, close by, and he got stitches and came back and finished the show. But while he was gone getting the stitches, all of these stand-up comedian writers on the show entertained the audience.
Right.
That was a funny night.
So what that means is, and this is very important, when you're shooting a show live, you want the audience to stay alive. You don't want it to take 5 or 6 hours. Your best bet is to make it happen in under 2 hours. And so in under 2 hours, the audience is still happening, they're having fun, and they're not sitting there getting tired, because it's a ripple effect. If the audience is tired, then the actors feel that energy. Oh, we're not getting as big as laughs, and they don't try. So that was under the gun of really trying to get Ray sewn up and back again, because had we had to cancel that night, that the budget would have gone through the roof. Yeah. So
also, what in the world of broadcast television, you have to make air dates. So you get deep into the season, and your post-production turnaround's very quick. So you want to get your show shot and right into editing, and sometimes they were tight.
Right. So a phrase that I'm sure other people said, but Phil used to say, which is, the train pulls out of the station on Monday. You have to deliver a show.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's you can't even say, hey, Ray, he cut his finger. So, I mean, you could say that, but the network goes, we've already sold. It's a ripple effect of monumental proportion. So getting Ray back in was very important. Somebody watching might know, so Karen is saying there's a clip of that cutting Ray's finger in an outtake. You can find that on YouTube. I don't know what episode it was.
I don't either. It was kind of a magical night, though. I remember it was kind of this, I think the audience, and instead of feeling like they'd been stuck sitting there for hours, were laughing at the entertainment, and the fact that Ray came back with the Band-Aid and stitches in his finger, and then we did this show. They were so into it. Like the audience was there they were in 100%. Yeah. It was like a really funny. It's the only time that's ever happened to me on a show. It was nuts, and it was he came back and we did the show and the audience was right back in it. It was a blast. It was actually a funny night. Sorry Ray got cut, but it was actually a fun night.
It was worth Ray worth Ray almost losing his finger. And just
Sorry,
for people, because I don't know what they have online, the moment Ray came back, the scene was the same. So he had to pick up, and he goes, he's going to cut his little snack there. And so when he comes back with his stitched finger, he goes over to the board where the cheese and crackers are, and he looks at it and he goes, nah, I don't want any cheese. And so he got it. Yes, the audience went crazy. Yeah. So maybe Ray Home Alone, which would be weird. It could be Ray Home Alone. It's actually an episode that I wrote with Ray and Tucker, but I don't remember. All right, Lisa, let me go.
You know, I thought of this is just so it's random, but we were talking about the Italy episode, and I was thinking, you weren't there. So this is one of the few experiences. 9/11 and Italy are the two kind of experiences I think I had without you, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, yeah, I wanted to go to Italy, but it just didn't happen. And because obviously there would have been a lot more pictures of Italy. And then and my ticket to fly into New York was for September 12th, 2001.
Yes, you guys were all supposed to come the next day.
Next day,
yeah. We're all supposed to come. But I was just thinking of Italy. I have my glasses on and I'm looking at them, and there's a scene there's a montage in the Italy episode where Patty has glasses on and Ray whacks her face and they fall off. And it was one of those moments where the very nice Italian prop person had got the glasses scored to break, but they wouldn't hold together and they kept falling off. And Phil was getting mad, getting impatient. And I remember Patty just saying to Rhonda, just put them on my face. Just put them on my face. I'll make it work. I'll make it work. She's like gritting through her teeth. Just put them on my, because we did like 10 takes and it wasn't working. And Phil's like, this isn't working. And Patty was just like right up in Rhonda's face. And I was right there. She goes, just put them on my face. Just put them on my face.
And so how did she make it work?
I don't know. She just kind of sold it.
She willed it.
Patty, it was getting tense. It was getting tense because if it wasn't working and there was no backup, there was no. Patty was just like, Rhonda, just set him on my face. But she was like really quietly, just put him on my face.
Yeah. So here, great question, Leo. So I'm going to say the question because when this replays, all the questions disappear. Lisa, did you say you would never be invited to the writer's room? Would it benefit you in your job? And did you ever ask Phil? So before you answer, Lisa, we never had people in the writer's room ever. There were no human beings except for maybe 5 in the history of the entire time who sat in the writer's room for any length. And so go ahead and answer, Lisa.
I wandered in the writer's room quite often, because I would have questions and they were always in the room all day. So I would pop in and ask a question. And every single time for 9 years, Lou Schneider flipped me off.
Yes.
But at least I got something for you. And he flipped me off.
So, yes. So I think, Lisa could walk into the writer's room anytime. It wasn't like it was taboo to have Lisa in the writer's room.
I did a lot. I popped in a lot.
All the time. It would say, yes, it would save a lot of time if Lisa could go, Phil, so when the car comes through the door, the thing, what do you need to happen? Versus the end of the day, she grabs Phil. So that's a really important thing. Yeah. And so to sit in the writer's room, though, you need complete creative freedom. So what Phil didn't want is for any of the writers to be intimidated because, well, and this is way before this politically correct period where I don't know how you can trust because in the writer's room, the same pipeline that comes out with the brilliant, dialogue also comes out with very bad scatological, whatever jokes. And so as a rule, Phil never had anybody sit in the writer's room for any extended period of time because it hindered the creative process. So did we trust Lisa and could she have sat there? Absolutely. But she's also busy. She's also crazy busy. So for her to sit there, it would be like, okay, I've seen enough. Can I go back to work now?
Yeah, I don't need to sit there.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of what gets pitched is just plain bad. It's just plain bad.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of the pitching is just like, there's a process that you go through trying to get to, and I don't say that to be mean. There's a process that you go through trying to land on the thing. And there's a lot of pitching that happens. And yeah, it's actually, the writer's room is a funny place to be. I mean, I had some big laughs when I walked in there sometimes, but yeah, I never hung out really because I was busy.
Yeah, so it's a funny group of people. And the one time I remember Norman Lear, for those of you that don't know, Norman Lear he's still producing and kicking, but he was the king of sitcoms and might always be the king of sitcoms because he, way before when he was writing for Martin and Lewis and everything, he was already a successful guy, but then he created All in the Family, and that became this iconic juggernaut of CBS, which completely changed the landscape of television. And then he had string after hit, hit after hit after hit. And there was somebody, and I can't remember who it was, somebody from his office, and Phil said, listen, Norman Lear's person would like to sit in the writer's room. That's like the only official, though, time that someone came in the room for a few hours at that. And it wasn't like, okay, for 4 days, you're going to sit in the writer's room. So we did have, like, you know, Simon Brown would sit in there, and Ken Levine, who was a director, but also had been the head writer of shows.
Different writers, support staff, writers, assistants, and script coordinators and stuff coming through all the years. And
right, but no outside people.
No, but nobody just hanging out. No.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote, was there great food in the writer's room? Yes.
Well, but not. So the answer is yes, but not really, because we were just
in the room. It was near. Yeah.
So what would happen for that, and we'll have George White on again because he's the one that did it. So we got to order a specific, so we had a dry erase board and there had all these restaurants named on it. And so Phil's feeling was, because we're locked in a room all day long, at least we have a good dinner, or lunch rather. And so Phil had all these restaurants that he approved, quote unquote improved. So we would try restaurants. This sounds like a good problem to have, because most companies are like, what? We're going to provide you with lunch? But the better our lunch was, we're just not leaving. And so they're getting more work out of us. And if you go to Google, if you ever go to Google headquarters, the lunch at Google headquarters is insane. I've never seen anything like it. But they know that the people are there working, and so the net benefit is to keep them happy. So that's Phil's.
I actually think the most fun meal in the writer's room that I distinctly remember eating in the writer's room, because we needed the big table, was crab. They would order from, is it Joe's Crab Shack in Florida, during crab season, once a year, get a big crate of crab and put newspapers down all over the whole writer's room table, and everybody would just put their plastic bibs on and get their wooden mallets and eat crab around that table. That was one fun thing that happened in the writer's room.
Yeah, so that was Phil's idea. He loved Joe's stone crab out of Miami, and so we would do that once a year. But other than that, it was just ordering out. And so yes,
out of a container,
yeah. So so there wasn't like a buffet sitting in the corner of the writer's room. There was tons of unhealthy snacks also. Okay, great. These are great, Lisa, because we're going to, as usual, we are going to run out of time.
Oh, everybody knows somebody feed Phil. So I don't know if I told you this story. When we went to Italy the first time to scout, we got into the van. It was me, Phil, and Mark Taylor from HBO, and I think Ken Ornstein, and then a couple of Italian friends. And he handed us, passed out like, oh, look, I feel, passed out like this thick, like papers, a big thing of papers. And I was like, and we were all kind of jet lagged in the van early, and I'm like, oh God, there's homework. And I open it, and all it is a list of restaurants and reviews plotted out by every place we were scouting.
Yes.
So we ate well.
By the way,
we had gelato by the Pantheon and this thing by this thing. So on the scout, everywhere we stopped, he had picked out what food to have nearby.
Yeah. So Phil, that's great, and that really was. Obviously, Phil's whole life led to it. And what I was holding up, sorry, everybody for don't know, that's Phil's mug. Life is short. Eat with your mouth full. It's backwards because we're on Instagram, but that's what it says. And Phil is backwards also, but he looks pretty much the same, forward and backwards. And so that Phil cites that was a little bit of the genesis, because Ray Romano in real life very much got converted to Italy, where he had never been. So Ray became the biggest proponent of Italy out of anybody, and he was reluctant to go. So that kind of became the genesis of of other than Phil's whole life of somebody feed Phil on Netflix. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and do it. Okay, I want to answer a couple of these questions, which are great. Oh, and Donnell, the finger cut was in season 3. Robert says you are unbelievable, and Ray says unbelievably ready to roll. Yes, that is from that is great. So is that season? So is that Ray Home Alone, Donnell? You would know better than Lisa and I because we only worked on the show. We only worked on the show, and I might have written the episode with Ray and Tucker.
I might have written the episode.
Yes. Hello, Diane, my sister. No, my ticket was for the 12th, I believe, not the 11th. Yeah, because you guys flew in on the 10th, and it was also it was for the launch of the Everyone's Raymond DVDs. That's why everybody.
Syndication launch. It was the parties for the syndication launch.
Yes, everybody from the show pretty much was going to go there. Could just real quickly, could Doris and Peter speak Italian? No, they could not really, but they did a great job with that. Hello, Australia. Hello. It's hard for me to see. Yes, ELR is more relatable. That's why I love it compared to Friends and Seinfeld. I'll take that credit. Sorry, Lisa. There was one thing that I was looking at okay. I'll get back to that question. And by the way, this is one thing that Phil was talking about. When we had those sports stars at the beginning of the series,
right? Like Sorta, people like that.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Katarina Witt and Christy Yamaguchi. And Katarina Witt was part of an episode that I actually introduced her on that episode. But she was a part of the episode, so it wasn't as it was more organic. But the rest of them, Phil put in the teaser, as we call it, the beginning part. And the reason for that is because the ratings were so low, CBS was trying to save the show. So it was a very positive move.
So why not have Tommy Lasorda making sauce
in the yes
in his kitchen?
Yes. That's funny. I'm reading this. Yes, I noticed every main actor in ELR at some point gets covered in food. I think Phil has a serious food fetish. Yeah. Yes, you could say that. Oh, by the way, sorry. I'll read this question because there's a bigger thing. Because I think for people watching this, the dream. Everyone has different dreams, but it would be so cool to be in the background on an episode. So the question was, did anyone in production ever double as extras? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily because we're doing favors, but a lot of times we just needed a bunch of extras. And so
just walk through a scene.
Yeah, walk through the scene. So when we're watching it, we go, oh, that's the person from accounting in the background. There's our writer's assistant is in the model episode. Our writer's assistant, Steve Meyer, is in the background. So we recognize them, etc.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So yes, there were a lot of people from the production, but there were I think our second assistant director was in. So yes, many people were in the background.
Yeah, but it didn't happen that much. I mean, it wasn't like, it was just occasionally somebody would show up in a.
Right. Well, Ray's Ring, for example, there's an airport scene, and they're like, okay, we need 36 people in the background. You know, there's the one boys therapy. They're in a racetrack. Okay, we need 26 different people, and then we did. So what Lisa said.
We hired extras. I mean, they were just occasionally a few people would just pop in for fun. It wasn't.
Right. So, but what Lisa's saying is right in that. It was almost always the family. And just to answer, that was the question I was looking for. Were there any episodes that were completely shot outside of the stage? No. 100%.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. Every
Italy, we only shot exteriors in Italy. All the interiors were on the stage. Right.
Yeah. And it blended perfectly. You guys, you did a really good job. Of doing that. So now Ray, if anybody gets this, but I don't think so because it's more of a Hollywood thing. There's a magazine, Emmy magazine, and they interviewed Ray and Phil, and they were talking about the show and their favorite episodes. And one thing that Ray pointed out that I completely forgot, because I would go in the audience and talk to the audience basically from the beginning for like an hour or whatever it was. The very beginning, nobody knew the show. So for the live audience, which is very important for the response of the actors, we had people who were in prison on a work release program, Marines on leave, people from nursing homes. And do you remember that, Lisa?
Oh, all the groups, the audience groups?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there were sometimes they'd bring like a tourist group that didn't speak English. We're like, oh, great.
So,
where are you from? Oh, wherever, like Germany.
Yes. So it's very funny because we're laughing now because you couldn't get into the show towards the end. The ticket was such a hot ticket. Yeah. But at the very beginning, it was just, you know, here's 30 Marines on leave to watch. It was
a lot of like rehab facilities. A lot of like outings for rehab facilities. We had a lot of people in rehab.
Right. And we hoping that didn't cause them.
They were pretty good audiences, honestly.
Yeah. It didn't cause them to drink.
You never knew what you were going to get, for sure.
Right. And that's a testimonial to Mark Sweet, who did the warm up, who was amazing because
and people don't know, like the people that haven't been to a taping, like it is when a show is new, it's hard to get audiences to come. It's a long commitment. They got to sit there. They've got to get to the bus or wherever, get there, stand in line for a long time, then sit in the audience and then get home. So it's quite a long day. And when there's nobody famous on the show and no one's heard of the show, it's not so easy. So they would, some of the audiences were
challenging. We're challenging. So Lisa, just because now I'm just trying to scan through some of these. So yes, people recognize your name from a few other shows. The New Adventures of Old Christine, that was immediately after Everett Raymond, and that was shot on the same stage as Everett Raymond.
On the same stage.
And was that weird for you? Because now you're going to work.
You know what? It was, I think for me, it was super weird when we, you know what, when you don't experience it, what you don't realize is how fast the whole show gets torn down. Like in a couple days, your 9 years of your life, it's an empty stage. And so for me, I think they asked me, did I want to do Old Christine on that stage? And it was a small stage. And although it wasn't ideal because it was small, there was something about the smallness that I loved and the intimacy that I loved. And so I said, yeah, I'll take that stage again. And then when the set started to go back up, it was oddly comforting to feel life again on that stage. Like it was different. And, you know, Julia was lovely and Carrie Leiser, the showrunner, they were great. And I thought it was going to be weird, but it was actually really fun to bring another show to life on that space. Cause it was so sad when it was all torn down. It just all got torn down so fast. And that walking on the empty stage was way worse than walking on with another show there. Yeah. What was really funny was, you know, it was at Warner Brothers, but Raymond wasn't a Warner Brothers show. So none of those executives had been on that stage in 9 years or 8 years. So when they walked on for Old Christine, I'll never forget Peter Roth saying, I haven't been on this stage in a really long time.
Yes. So what Lisa's talking about specifically, for example, Friends is a Warner Brothers show. When you go to the Warner Brothers VIP tour right now, which I totally recommend to anybody who's interested in show business, go to the Warner Brothers VIP tour. You get to tour the lot, and you go to something called Central Perk, where Warner Brothers has set up a Friends, like basically little mini studio, and it's hugely popular. But if you go there, you'll go, wow, Everett Raymond was here, but there's really no mention of Everett Raymond except for a little thing on the plaque that's on the outside of stage 5. And so where Friends was, by the way, I think the year before us, they were there, and then they moved to stage 24. But that's why, because we are not a Warner Brothers show, what Lisa's talking about. So we were kind of rented outside occupants on this home stage. Lisa, what you probably don't know, but I'll share them at some point. When they tore down the Everett Brothers Raymond set, I went there and did time-lapse photography of it.
You did?
And it started at midnight, and they ended around 4 a.m. And so it was a little heartbreaking to watch. There goes, you know,
it's
Ray.
So fast, right? It's so fast.
Gone like that.
All in your years of your life. By the way, just want to say, like, I saw a comment about rehab groups. I was not dissing rehab groups. I wanted to, they were good audiences. I was just saying it just happened to be like that's where the majority of our audiences came from in the first season, as opposed to people beating down the doors a few years later to try to get them.
Well, the fact was, forgetting rehab groups, it was just random groups.
Oh, random groups.
And
like
rehab,
a tourist group or a ladies book club or whatever.
Yeah. So rehab groups. Yeah, rehab groups. Yeah, that's very funny.
I wasn't dissing rehab groups. They were good audiences. We were thankful for them.
Yeah, I don't think you were dissing them. I think the bottom line is these weren't fans. These were random people that were forced to watch the show.
Random groups happy to get out and go see something.
And so, so do you want to watch a Hollywood show? And I will say, they did get to see Peter Boyle, who was a star, and Doris, who was known. Ray was completely unknown. Patty known a little bit. Brad a little bit. So,
not really.
But for the and when you saw that change was when the show started. When we knew it was popular was when Marie would enter a room and they would laugh, and she didn't say anything because they knew what she was thinking, and so that became pivotal moments in the show when you go, okay, we don't have to overwrite this. And when people there's some people commenting. I posted something about an episode called Robert Needs Money that I wrote based on something. The germ of the idea came from something that happened to me. And someone was saying, well, in this episode, he did this and this and this. But you also have to remember when you're writing an episode, you can't assume that someone's seen every episode of the show.
I'm cracking up because somebody says attending as an audience was free. And I was like, not only was it free, I think we paid people in the beginning.
So the question of how do you join? So there was a company which I think went out of business because of COVID.
Because of COVID, sadly.
There was a company called Audiences Unlimited. So this happens all the time. I know, for example, like Ray directed a movie that will come out and it's great, but you have to do a test screening. So you have to pay people to go because they don't know, and they're going to go to the theater, and you can't sell them tickets to something that's not finished yet. So on Everybody's Raymond or any show, you would go, let's say, to a theme park. You go to Universal Studios. There's a person standing there, or there's a kiosk, and it says, would you like to see a TV show? And so then they're handing out tickets. So you go, oh, I'm here from not Hollywood, and I've never seen a TV show. And so what would you like to see? How about an unknown show that's no one ever heard of called Everybody Loves Raymond that's number 100 in the ratings? No, thank you. Do you have anything else? Okay. And so then Audiences Unlimited is paid to provide an audience.
Yeah,
so they're guaranteed.
I think we had to give some money to some of these groups to come. Like, not a lot of money, a couple $100 or something, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So any public place you would see, and to this day, if anybody wants to go now, COVID has changed the live audience for the most part. Hopefully once that goes.
They're starting to come back. We're talking about it a lot right now.
Okay.
Because we have multi-cameras that want to bring back audiences. And there are a few, I think the Connors maybe is having an audience again. There's a few shows that slowly starting to bring audiences back.
Yeah. And when you say we, Lisa, you do work for Warner Brothers now.
I do.
Okay. Yes. So it suddenly became an investigation. Yes, I do. Okay. I would like to have my lawyer. So, okay. King Me, 57. Why do little details change in scenery, like pictures on the wall, wallpaper, cabinets, etc., for general change or cosmetic reasons? You want to?
What's the question? Why do the little details change?
Yes.
Oh, they change because the set gets taken down and put back up, and it has to be touched up, and the statue, the lamp they rented wasn't available, so they got something similar. But people don't realize is that, especially on our Raymond stage, which was really small.
Yeah.
We didn't have very much room for sets, so that we took the sets down and put things up a lot. So every time you take things down and put them back up, they take continuity photos, the set dressers and stuff, but something will be slightly in the wrong spot, or maybe it got broken or it wasn't available.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So we'll talk to Donna Stamps. I'll talk to Donna Stamps and talk about it. But what Lisa's also saying is it's not necessarily a calculated move, but also sometimes it is. And sometimes it's like, okay, your house, if you took a snapshot of your house and then 9 years later took a snapshot of the same of your
Right,
house,
right.
you do decorate your house. So
Yeah, so things would evolve too a little bit.
yeah, so Donna would change things deliberately,
Right.
but then there's all these other factors. So for the most part, the least change should be Ray and Deborah's living room, because that's the only set that didn't stayed rather, that didn't get broken down. So Frank and Marie's living room would get put up and taken down depending on how whether it was needed or not. So Lisa, just because I'm reading back to the questions, the golf episode. Do you remember the golf episode? Fun with Deborah. So that was a beautiful set. So that had to be a slightly expensive.
We built a piece of the golf course on the stage, right?
Correct.
It was pretty basic. I mean, it was, it was like AstroTurf and walls, right, and greens.
Yes, it was, but it looked amazing and looked very impressive.
They photographed bigger than they are.
Yes.
Now, you know what's funny? Now you just hang a green screen. The whole thing would you just put in the background. You wouldn't even. We built everything you saw. Was physically there.
Yeah, and so, by the way, if you go on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, you'll see all these examples of here's a person walking on green screen, and then you see the actual scene, and it's astounding, and it's an astounding money saver from the production, not post production.
Yeah, right.
But it's an astounding money saver. All right,
you don't have to go anywhere. You just stick up a green screen and shoot it.
Yeah. A few more. Oh, by the way, Lisa, I read this in the, and you'll appreciate this. When they were first figuring out on I Love Lucy, the 4-camera, 3-camera shoot, Desi didn't want to have any breaks at all. He wanted to do it straight through because he was worried that the audience wouldn't sit for an hour. Okay.
Right.
And so the writers and the producer was like, how are we going to do that without a break? And they're like, well, we could put Lucy in all of her wardrobe and peel it off as the scenes go on. And luckily, according to the writers and producer, they backed off on that idea, because what they had Desi do was go and entertain the audience in between takes, which is what he did in his live show anyway. But other than that, they said, there's no way to pull it off. But the irony is that I'm reading this going, an hour-long shoot seemed long. That would
fast.
That's really the fastest. Yes, that is the fastest thing ever. So Donnell, here, last 2 questions, Lisa, because we ran out of time and we barely got to anything again.
I feel like I ruined your Instagram thing again.
Only an hour and 2 minutes. An hour and 2 minutes. Speaking of other sitcoms, did Chris Rock or his production reach out to ELR or Ray when they named the show Everyone Hates Chris? My thought is no.
No, probably
because
not.
you don't. First of all, it's Everybody Loves Raymond. You can say that phrase. It would have been a nice gesture. They would have had to reach out to HBO legal department.
I actually think it probably makes it worse for them if they do, because if we had said no, we don't like it, then that would have been worse for them than just. Do you know what I'm saying? Like from a legal standpoint, probably my guess is, if you just do it, Everyone Hates Chris is not Everybody Loves Raymond. It's 2 different titles, unless you're ripping off the show completely. But
you don't.
If asked permission and we said no, then that would have opened up a can of worms.
But I don't even think they have. There's no grounds to ask permission. Yeah. All right, final 2 here. Leo, yes, season 2, Ray and Deborah watch the kids play baseball. Must have been expensive. That actually wasn't that expensive, because that was just a backdrop and a stands, and the stands. Is that the T-ball episode, Leo, that you're talking about? My mom was in the audience of 2 I Love Lucys. That's awesome. That's great. Did she tell you a lot about them? Sometimes I notice something visually funny isn't reacted to by the audience until the camera is on it. They obviously saw it before before camera. How do you time the reaction to equal TV audience? Excellent question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's really good. So one of the hardest jobs on the show is something called the switcher. And the switcher picks the audience's feed of the camera. So there's 4 cameras. 1 gets fed to the audience. So what they do in critical moments is they take a backdrop and they put it in front of the stage, so the audience can't see something that would spoil a joke.
They're called floaters, and they're just a black screen on wheels, and we would just roll those, and then we just literally the grips would just pull them out of the way to reveal the scene right when it starts, so we didn't give anything away.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a very, and usually would say Eros Raymond or Mom on it or something like that. Lisa, do me a favor and just smile, because I need a screen. Because it's a random thing that comes up. All right, you can stop smiling now, Lisa. Otherwise, you look a little crazy.
I'm holding my phone because it was dying, and I had to plug it in, and it's too far from my desk to the plug, so I'm like holding my phone the whole time.
So we're going to have a pre-production meeting next time. I'm going to come over to your house.
I didn't know I was doing this.
I'm going to bring this.
Like a minute before you wanted me to do it.
I'm going to bring this to you, and we're going to set it up, and I'm going to get hair and makeup will be there earlier in the day. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I see yes. A lot of people like you, Lisa. These are all going to disappear, so I got to read these comments. Love seeing Lisa again today. Thanks to both of you for today's live.
I feel like there's so much I feel like we talked about that.
Lisa, you're going to come on 25 more times. So, okay. So we can take our time with these stories. All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'll be in constant touch. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks for those great questions. Don't forget to write your questions during the week. This is the best audience of Everybody Loves Raymond ever. Thank you so much. All right. Goodbye, Lisa. Goodbye. Thank you.